Hey guys, Brian here of AutoHow2Videos.com. Today we're back in the shop with Willie B. Going to be doing a brake job on a 1994 Chevy Silverado. Basically, we got a couple parts here. We're going to be putting on new calipers, new brake hoses, and a new set of pads. We're also going to show you how to determine if your rotors are good enough to be turned or if you need to replace them or not. We're going to cover a full diagnostic and how to do the installation. Also, just remember this is a video you can do at home with regular mechanic set of tools, and you can do it in your own garage or driveway. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the video, and let's get started.
What's up guys, Willie B here. Today we're going to talk about how to properly diagnose front disc brake system so that you get the right parts the first time. First thing you want to do, you want to look at your rotor condition. Most of the time there's a beveled edge or an angled edge you can barely see this one due to rust, but if you still see that edge there, most of the time you're good to machine these rotors. You can turn them on a brake lathe, and we'll discuss that later. Once you see it, that's pretty good. This rotor looks pretty good. Then you want to take some sort of pry tool, screwdriver or something, try and get it in here in the caliper, in between the pad and the caliper. You're going to want to try and force your brake piston inboard. This will check either a mechanical problem in your caliper or a hydraulic problem. As you see this one, it's stuck. It's not going anywhere. So,
is that bleeder screw open or closed, Will?
Right now the bleeder screw is closed. What we'll want to do to check that, to check whether you have a caliper problem or a hydraulic line that's collapsed. A lot of times they collapse in here in the rubber area. Go ahead and break your bleeder loose. Doesn't take much. Now, do the same thing. Try and force that piston inboard, and it's still not going. That tells me that there is some sort of debris or something in your piston, in your caliper, not allowing your fluid to be forced back up through the hose. If your hose was the leakage or the problem, you'd be able to pry on this and the piston would go inward and your fluid would shoot out the bleeder screw. And then that would indicate that you have a collapsed brake hose or something of the sort. But this one, it's obvious the problem is in the caliper itself. This caliper must be replaced. Lots of times caliper problems are from the rubber hose deteriorating from the inside out, and a lot of this debris from inside the hose settles in the bottom of your caliper, and that usually ends up what's seizing up your caliper piston. So on this job, we're going to go ahead and replace the rubber brake hoses in the caliper. We're going to do it right. Remember guys, it is your brakes. It's the #1 safety thing on the whole car. So it's a good idea to take care of that properly the first time. First thing we're going to do is remove the caliper. You got 2 bolts here. These are slide pin bolts. This one happens to be an Allen head. This is the Chevrolets. They're a 3/8. And once you get them loose, it may be necessary to take a pry tool. Find a good place to pry. Pull straight out on the caliper. Set it aside. All right, now to remove the pads out of this caliper, just pry this kind of spring-loaded deal here. It's a good idea too, once you get them off, check for even wear from side to side. Sometimes you'll see they'll be real thin on this side, real thick on this side. These look great. If you do have an uneven worn pad, it may indicate a slide pin that's not sliding in and out properly. These are fine. We're putting calipers on this bad boy anyway, so really doesn't matter. Pull this one out. You can just pull it out like that. They make a lot of different types of tools to push a piston back in with. They make, you can use a C-clamp. They make special tools, a pad spreader that you stick in here. Got a little handle on it. I like to use big channel locks. Make sure you put a brake pad back in the piston, because some pistons are composite and you'll crack them every time. And then you go ahead and squeeze. Now what we'll do is show you how to remove the rotor. This is a bearing type setup rotor. It's not a knockoff. So we'll have to remove the dust cap, your castle nut, and I'll show you how to do that. Usually just take a screwdriver or something, stick in between the rotor and the cap. Sometimes they can be a little tricky. Just take a screwdriver, pop it off like that. It's going to reveal your castle nut. You're going to have a cotter pin in here. I find the best tool to remove cotter pins is side cutters. Just bend them to where they'll come straight out of the hole. And this castle nut, believe it or not, they're not very tight, not supposed to be very tight. You can just take a pair of channel locks, unscrew it. Should become finger tight. You're going to expose your front bearing, or your outer bearing, I should say. These look pretty good. You want to inspect your bearing races for any pitting. These do not have that. These look really good. Then on the back side, you got your outer bearing and you got your grease seal. This is your grease seal. Now, most people, these will have to be removed to machine the brake rotor. I'm going to show you a trick that will keep you from harming this seal so you don't have to replace it. What you do is put it back on the spindle like that. Take your nut and just get it started like that. So grab a hold of your rotor, turn it sideways a little bit like that, and pull it off. This leaves your seal unharmed and your your inside bearing. Again, check the surface of your bearing race. Make sure it's not pitted. If it is, you can buy another set of bearings for it.
What you guys are seeing here is a process called turning the rotors. We use both an off-car and an on-car lathe. Basically what this does is refinish the rotors so you can put your brake pads on a fresh new surface. This can save you a lot of money as opposed to buying new rotors, but you don't want to try and do it yourself. Always take it to a mechanic or a machine shop because they need to measure the thickness of the rotors to see if they can actually be turned over. Anyway, just a little bit of footage to show you what happens behind the scenes, and let's put our new rotors back on the car.
Alright, now that we have a rotor that's been freshly turned and ready to go, what you're going to want to do is repack your wheel bearings. You can do it two ways. You can either use a bearing packer such as this, or you can just apply it by hand, put some grease in your hand and make sure you thoroughly coat the bearing. I prefer this method. It's slightly cleaner, quicker, works a little bit better. There's a freshly packed rotor. It pushes all the old grease out of it, new grease in. And it never hurts to use too much grease. And then here's the old seal that I saved. I want to get you a soft mallet to reinstall this. Just get it started. Gently tap on the outside edge of it until it's flush with your hub.
Just reinstall the rotor the same way you took it off. Don't forget to repack extra grease for that front bearing as well.
Okay, on this application we are replacing the caliper and hoses. So the first thing you want to do is you want to unbolt your hose from your upper control arm. You'll break loose this nut, and you'll also pull this clip out. Anytime you tighten your steel brake line up, it's crucial to use this is what they call a line wrench. It kind of gives you 6 corners of the wrench to bite onto the nut. If you use a standard wrench to tighten them or break them loose, it tends to round the nut off. Then you get into a whole other set of problems. On brake hoses, they have what they call a banjo fitting. What that is it's actually a bolt with a hole in it. Then it also has a hole in it right here. So when you tighten this down, you'll want to use crush washers. These are copper crush washers. Put them on like this, and then as the fluid comes through your hose, it goes through that tiny hole in the side and then out into your caliper. Now's the time to install our caliper. Most brake pads you'll find are directional. You'll notice how these wear indicators go in different directions. So you want to take the one off this side. Of course, it's this one. And then the inboard pad is the same on both sides on this vehicle. Install the inboard pad first, then your outboard pad. And since these are spring loaded, there's no reason to apply any lubrication grease on this caliper. But on some makes, you might, if they don't have this retainer spring, you might want to apply a little bit of brake grease like this on these surfaces here. I'm going to slide these on here. Be careful not to dislocate your shims. And now you might want to kind of just set your caliper on here and see where your contact patches are of your caliper to your spindle bracket. So what you'll want to do is lubricate with this style grease here. And this inboard brake pad contacts in here, so you want to put you a little bit of grease in here. Put you some right here. Then your slide pins, which are inside here, you want to take them out, just slide them out with your fingers and make sure that they're lubricated properly so your assembly can move back and forth as your brake pads wear. Stick that on there like that. We got moves back and forth real easily. We're ready to install our new bolts that came with the calipers. On this style, it's important that you start these with your hands because you can cross thread these really easily with a ratchet. Well, we've got them started. Get them good and snug. And to the other side.
All right, guys, you just saw Willie B do the full brake install. We've got a new caliper, rotor, brake pads, and a new brake hose. Pretty much everything you need to have a new fresh set of brakes. Last thing we didn't show you is how to bleed the brakes. If you don't know how to properly bleed them, be sure to check out our other videos on that. Anyway, if you're wanting to do your brakes, this is remember something you can do at home in your own garage with basic hand tools. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to our channel and share it on Facebook. Anyway, be sure to also go to our website at autohowtovideos.com. We've got more great videos, more great installs, and we'll have a lot more stuff coming your way soon. So we'll see you guys next time.